In the world of One Piece, there were many unique powers and abilities. Some characters rely mostly on haki, others on weapons, devil fruits, or even something else entirely. So in this video, I'll be going through each of the 8 power categories and picking the strongest character from each one. For example, the strongest armament haki user is a bit tricky to pick. This is because we don't really know how much of a character's strength is due to armament haki and how much of it is just because they're, well, a strong character. However, one guy that proved this power can be brought to the next level is definitely Virgo, who had the ability to coat his whole body with a thick layer of armament haki. Although this was pretty cool to see, it isn't enough to make him the strongest armament haki user, as he lacks the physical strength some of the other characters have, like Kaido and Big Mom for example, who were both pretty much indestructible due to their armament haki. However, not even they are the strongest user of this power. You see, during Roger's time, all top pirates like Whitebeard, Roger, and Shiki either had a super strong Conqueror's haki or a busted devil fruit. And do you know who was the only guy without a devil fruit standing in their way? That's right, Garp. Now, although it was recently confirmed that Garp does also have Conqueror's haki, from what we saw during his battle on Hachinosu, he mostly resorts to just using armament and punching as hard as he can. The guy literally trains by punching giant battleships with his bare fists. And although it sounds weird, it definitely works. I mean, just ask 𝐿. However, another character that I have to mention is Kobe, who recently showed us how strong he's become when he split Pizarro's hand in 2 with his Honesty Impact. You gotta work on that name, dude. Despite this, currently I'm positive that Garp has the strongest armament haki in the series, but I have no doubts that Kobe will surpass him at some point. There are still 7 power categories left to cover, and let's continue by choosing the strongest swordsman in the show. Okay, this category is a bit weird because it already stated that Mihawk is the world's strongest. But is he really? Or are there some characters even stronger than him? Mihawk is hard to talk about as he's done a grand total of 0 impressive things on screen. Although his past achievements are great, so far in the story he's only been a title holder who just sits around. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like Mihawk to actually start doing stuff after 25 freaking years. Anyway, one contender for the world's strongest swordman besides Mihawk is obviously Zoro, the swordsman of the show. Since the last time these two fought, Zoro has become thousands of times stronger. He's defeated many notorious pirates, become an officer of an emperor crew, and even got himself a nice billion-berry bounty. I think we can all agree that his rematch against Mihawk is long due, but I don't think he's quite ready yet. And although it's too early for Zoro to win in this category, there are actually 2 more legendary swordsmen that we need to consider besides Mihawk. During the chaos at Egghead, all 5 elders arrived at the island, and one of them, 𝐿, is now confirmed to be a swordsman. While he and Zoro clashed only for a moment, I have to say 𝐿 does seem to be stronger than him. Another reason I believe he's ridiculously strong is because his blade has been permanently turned black, which is something only he and Mihawk have managed to achieve in recent times. But what if I tell you that neither 𝐿 or Mihawk are the strongest characters in this category? You see, centuries ago, there was another swordsman who was able to turn his sword black, the sword god Ryuma. Many people just think of Ryuma as the zombie Zoro fought on Thriller Bark, but that was just his very old corpse powered by Brook's relatively weak shadow. While he was alive, Ryuma was a legendary samurai from Wano, considered by everyone to be the strongest swordsman of his time. He was known around the world for decapitating a real dragon, which are extinct creatures far stronger than the artificial dragons we saw in Punk Hazard. However, the big proof that points to Ryuma being the strongest swordsman is the fact that the world government was too scared to attack Wano because of him, even after he died. Okay, that one was a bit unexpected, but now let's see who the strongest science-based fighter is. Among the people who make use of science and electronics to fight, we have a couple of great fighters to choose from. One that instantly comes to mind is Vinsmoke Judge, a very skilled scientist best known for creating clone soldiers and raid suits. Judge in his raid suit fought Sanji on Whole Cake Island, and although he wasn't bad, there are so much stronger characters in this category. One of them is, of course, Franky, an incredible scientist and engineer who loved creating weapons even from a young age. After almost getting killed by the Sea Train, he rebuilt himself with scrap parts and has slowly been upgrading himself ever since. Collecting knowledge from Vegapunk's original lab, he got access to some crazy attacks like Radical Beam, which shoots a super strong and precise laser made after Kizaru's Devil Fruit. Another great contender for this category would be Vegapunk himself. He and his satellites have access to some of the world's best technology, and they can be pretty strong. For example, the bubble gun is a deadly weapon against every Devil Fruit user, and imagine it combined with something like the Vega Force 1. But at the end of the day, Vegapunk was never a fan of creating powerful weapons, which is why even he is not the strongest science-based character. But who is then? Well, while I was talking about Judge, I didn't mention one thing. He actually invented a way to genetically modify his children before they were even born in order to give them superhuman abilities. This ultimately led to his children all being incredibly powerful, but let's be real, none of them is as powerful as Sanji. Once his abilities awakened, Sanji's endurance skyrocketed, with Queen's Blade breaking after hitting him and even Seraphim getting confused at how durable he is. His strength and speed increased tremendously as well, allowing him to move so fast that he pretty much becomes invisible, which eventually allowed him to defeat Queen. Now, while Sanji doesn't actually have any knowledge of science, I still consider him a science-based fighter as the majority of his abilities come from his father's genetic modifications. This next category is a unique one, and I called it Mysterious Abilities. In this one, I'll be including characters who have some kind of special ability that doesn't come from either Devil Fruit or Haki, and we have a couple of really interesting characters to choose from here. For example, Rob Lucci can use Rokushiki techniques, which can grant him a variety of different abilities like walking on air, insane speed, or even air slashes. Lucci is not only the best at all of these, but he's also the only person to master the 7th secret move, Rokugan. This was the ability he used to attack Luffy in Enies Lobby, and it works by damaging its opponent from inside without even the need to touch them directly. Another character whose power comes from neither fruit nor Haki is Cavendish, and his alter ego, Hakuba. Hakuba awakens whenever Cavendish falls asleep, and this transformation pretty much makes him a super fast killing machine. This version of Cavendish managed to kill Dellinger, one of the officers of the Doflamingo's crew, in the blink of an eye. And let me remind you, Dellinger was supposed to be the fast one. The only real problem with Hakuba is that he completely acts on instinct and will simply attack the first person he sees, which means he's very predictable and can easily be outsmarted. However, neither Lucci nor Hakuba come close to this next character, who seems to have some kind of demon within him. Yeah, I'm obviously referring to Zoro and his Asura technique, where he manifests 2 full clones of himself in order to perform some insane attacks. Zoro only used this technique 3 times in the entire show, and one of these was just so he could eat faster? Anyway, the other 2 were a big deal. The first time he revealed Asura was in Enies Lobby when he destroyed Kaku with it, who thought it was just some kind of illusion. The other time was on Onigashima's rooftop when he inflicted a life-lasting wound on Kaido's body, a feat previously achieved only by Odin. Now, we can't finish this section without mentioning Imu and the 5 Elders. For now, these guys seem to be stronger than Zoro and would definitely take a win in this category. However, we still don't know whether their powers are Devil Fruits related or not. So until we learn what these guys actually are, Zoro wins and takes the trophy for this category. There are only 4 more categories left to cover, and let's continue with the one you've all been waiting for, the Conqueror's Haki. Conqueror's Haki is the strongest form of Haki and an extremely rare ability that only manifests in 1 out of a million people. It's so powerful that a lot of strong characters opted for training this Haki type instead of eating devil fruits. Take Odin, for example. He had insanely powerful Conqueror's Haki, which allowed him to battle some of the strongest characters in history without ever eating a devil fruit. However, one guy who didn't have much of a problem fighting Odin was, of course, Goldie Roger. The Pirate King was viewed as the Conqueror's Haki master, being able to fight equally against Whitebeard, who didn't only have a strong Conqueror's Haki, but one of the most busted devil fruits as well. If I was only ranking the strongest Conqueror's Haki user from the previous era, Roger would have won for sure. But there were 2 pirates of the current era that I must cover as well. One of them is, of course, Luffy, who during his recent fights showed just how strong his Conqueror Haki got. His recent fights were literally against an Emperor, an Admiral, and a Gorosei, which are pretty much the 3 strongest groups of fighters in the entire world. The sky was also split in half when Luffy fought using Conquerors, which proves that his mastery of it can easily rival Roger's. However, it's a good thing that we don't have to choose between these 2 because there's still 1 character left to cover in this segment whose Conquerors is stronger than all of the previous ones. Red Hair Shanks. Shanks' power was for a long time hard to confirm due to him barely ever appearing in the story, but in recent chapters he's done 2 things that really show how powerful he and his Haki really are. Firstly, he was able to hit Green Bull with a blast of Conqueror's Haki from miles away and completely incapacitate him. Also, during his fight against Kid, he used Roger's legendary move, Divine Departure, to completely obliterate him and his entire crew in the blink of an eye. So yeah, Shanks is the undisputed king of Conqueror's Haki, and I don't see this changing anytime soon. One of the most useful abilities to have on the seas is a good observation Haki. A lot of strong fighters keep this ability always active, as it helps them see their opponent's moves more easily and can also scan their surroundings for any threats or traps. One person who has trained their observation Haki to its absolute limits is Admiral Fujitora. You see, this guy has been blind for at least a few years, and in those years he has never turned off his observation Haki. This is why his proficiency with it is so great that he can basically see as if he had eyes and can pretty much sense everything that's going on miles away. However, unfortunately for Fujitora, normal observation Haki will only get him so far, and the real strength of this power comes when it's awakened. Advanced observation Haki, or future sight, is an incredibly powerful ability that lets the user see a few seconds into the future. One of the people who awakened this ability is Katakuri, and during his fight with Luffy, he was basically untouchable. In order to defeat him, Luffy had to outspeed Katakuri while also learning future sight himself, and still he barely won. Other than these two, Kaido also has this ability, and although it would be pretty hard to guess which future sight is the strongest, we thankfully don't have to, as none of them are best at it. You see, normally those who can use this power can only see up to around 5 seconds into the future, but the king of Haki, Shanks, can see for over 10 seconds. We witnessed this when he saw Kid's entire attack before it even happened and then quickly stopped it. This makes him the winner of 2 separate categories, but don't worry, you won't be seeing him the 3rd time. Probably. Before we cover the last category and pick the strongest devil fruit user in the entire show, let's first quickly go over the monsters category. Now, although being a monster isn't really a power, due to One Piece having so many unique animals and creatures, I thought it would be fun to pick which one is the strongest in the entire story. The first monsters that come to mind are human drills. These super smart monkeys can imitate anything they see. For example, one of them imitated Zoro's 3-sword style after seeing him fight like that while the monkey's leader used a replica of Mihawk's sword and copied his attacks. They are definitely some scary monkeys, but there are many stronger monsters than them. Although we don't know anything about them, I feel like we should at least mention the giant shadow monsters from the Florian Triangle, as these things must be incredibly powerful. Another great contender is the Island Eater, an appropriately named goldfish that is one of the largest creatures we've ever seen. Just as Usopp said back in Syrup Village, its poop is so big that people can mistake it for an island. The Straw Hats would have been easily eaten by this thing if not for Dory and Brogy. However, a creature even bigger and scarier than this one is definitely Zunesha, and I don't really think you understand how huge this thing is. To put it into perspective, it would take 5,000 Kaidos standing on top of each other to reach Zunesha's height. Due to its massive size, Zunesha can pretty much defeat any enemy with one strike of its trunk. Just ask poor Jack. However, the thing is, this is nowhere close to Zunesha's true strength, as the elephant was only defending here. So just imagine what would have happened if it actually had intentions of killing Jack. So yeah, Zunesha is easily the strongest creature in the One Piece world, and it's not even close. The strongest devil fruit user is something that's been discussed many times. However, with the recent manga events, the answer may not be as clear because of some newly revealed fruits. So everyone who watched One Piece knows that Whitebeard's 𝐵𝐴 no Mi is considered to be the strongest Paramecia-type devil fruit in the show. I mean, that fact is pretty obvious when you consider just how much damage Whitebeard caused with his quakes during Marineford. However, considering Blackbeard now has this fruit, along with Yami no Mi, does that make him the strongest devil fruit user? Well, the combination of these two fruits is definitely broken. I mean, with Yami no Mi, he can pull people closer to himself, and then with 𝐵𝐴 no Mi, he can punch them with devastating force. But considering we've never seen Blackbeard go all out yet, we can't really consider him the strongest devil fruit user yet. Another obvious pick would be Luffy and his mythical Zoan fruit that turns him into the sun god Nika. The cartoonish powers of this fruit allowed Luffy to turn Kaido, the world's strongest creature, into a complete joke. During the Egghead arc, this Nika form is what allowed Luffy to embarrass Admiral Kizaru and even Saint Saturn, a freaking elder. However, is Luffy really the strongest devil fruit user in the series, or is there another god tier fruit that went under everyone's radar this whole time? What about Bonnie's Toshi no Mi? Okay, I know what you're thinking. How is a fruit that changes someone's age supposed to compare to Blackbeard's or Luffy's fruit? Well, what if I told you that this fruit doesn't just change Bonnie's age, but can actually transform her into herself from different futures as long as she can imagine them? Believe it or not, she managed to use this ability to turn herself into Nika, and considering how her fruit works on other people, she can, in theory, turn other people into their Nika forms. Now, I'm a bit doubtful about giving Bonnie the #1 spot here simply because we still don't know if her Nika form is as strong as the original and how long she can maintain it for. Therefore, for now, I'm going to give Luffy the crown here because his abilities are way more battle-tested, but this might change real soon with the new developments from the manga. However, one thing that will never change are the incredible final forms of One Piece characters, and if you're interested in learning more about them, click on this video next where I explained all 35 final forms in One Piece.